The signal came from nowhere. It came from a place that should not exist. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the S Horizon, Earth's flagship vessel, and stared at the data on her screen. Her coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago. She had not noticed. The numbers in front of her made no sense, and yet they were real. "Run the scan again," she ordered. Lieutenant, her communications officer, shook her head. "Admiral, we have run it 17 times. The signal is real. It is coming from the void." The void. Every species in the galaxy knew that name. It was a region of empty space, 300 light-years across, where nothing existed. No stars, no planets, no debris. The Galactic Concord, the alliance of 4,000 spacefaring civilizations, had marked it as forbidden territory 2 million years ago. Their ancient laws said the area was naturally barren, a freak of cosmic formation, but had studied enough history to know that when powerful beings said, "Do not look here," there was usually something worth finding. "What does the signal say?" she asked. Lieutenant pulled up the translation software. The computer worked for several seconds, then displayed an error message. "Unknown language," reported. "It does not match any of the 12,000 languages in our database, but Admiral, the structure suggests it is artificial. Someone made this signal. Someone is broadcasting." Felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago. They controlled 12 star systems. Compared to the ancient species of the Conquered, they were children. Bobbies, really. They had ruled their empire for 3 million years. They had been building starships when Earth's dinosaurs still walked. And yet here was a signal, coming from forbidden space, in a language older than any known civilization. "Get me Captain Hand," said, "and find Dr. Lee. Tell them to prepare for a mission." 3 days later, the research vessel S Discovery slipped quietly out of the Sol system. Captain Hand stood at the helm, watching the stars streak past as the ship entered faster-than-light travel. He was a calm man, steady and patient, the kind of officer who never raised his voice even in crisis. Beside him, Dr. Lee studied the signal data on her tablet, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The language structure is fascinating," said. "It uses mathematical constants as its base, prime numbers, the golden ratio, the speed of light. Whoever created this wanted to be understood by anyone, regardless of their native tongue." "Can you translate it?" asked. "I am working on it. But Captain, this signal is old. Very old. My preliminary analysis suggests it has been broadcasting for at least 1 billion years." Turned to look at her. 1 billion years, that is impossible. No technology lasts that long. Shrugged, "I know what the data says. Perhaps we are about to discover something that changes what we think is possible." The journey to the void took 2 weeks. As the Discovery approached the forbidden region, the crew grew quiet. Everyone knew they were breaking Conquered law. The punishment for entering the void was severe: total economic isolation from galactic trade. For a young species like humanity, that could mean extinction. But Admiral had made her decision and trusted her judgment. If there was something in the void worth finding, humanity needed to find it before anyone else did. The Discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the void. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then someone gasped. "Captain," the sensor officer whispered, "you need to see this." The main flickered to life, and Hand felt his heart stop. It was not a ship. It was too big to be a ship. It was the size of Mars, a sphere of dark metal floating in the emptiness, covered in patterns and symbols that glowed with faint blue light. It was ancient. It was impossible, and it was definitely not natural. "Dear God," breathed, "that is a starship, a planet-sized starship." Gripped the armrest of his chair. His hands were shaking. How is this possible?" The sensor officer ran scan after scan, each one confirming what their eyes told them. The object was artificial. It was constructed of materials that did not exist in any database. Its power signature was minimal but steady, suggesting it was in some kind of sleep mode. And then the signal changed. "Captain," Lieutenant shouted from the Discovery's communication station. "The signal. It is adapting. It is learning our language." The flickered, static filled the display, then resolved into symbols. Watched, her mouth open, as the symbols shifted and changed, becoming letters, becoming words. English words. "Children of Earth, we have WAITED." The bridge fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Was the first to find her voice. "It knows us," she whispered. "It was waiting specifically for us." Mind raced. This made no sense. Humanity had only achieved space travel 300 years ago. Before that, they were primitive, bound to a single planet, unknown to the galaxy. How could an ancient vessel, 1 billion years old, know about Earth? How could it be waiting for humans? "Send a response," ordered. "Ask it who built it, ask it why it was waiting." Transmitted the questions. The wait was only seconds, but it felt like hours. Then the reply came. "We are the first ARCHITCTS. We built this vessel before your star was born. We seeded your world with life. We encoded our legacy in your blood. You are our children. And now you are ready to claim your inheritance." Looked at, her face was pale. "Our inheritance," she repeated. "What inheritance?" The vessel's surface began to change. Massive panels shifted, revealing openings large enough to swallow entire fleets. Lights activated across the hull, billions of points of blue illumination spreading like stars being born. The power signature spiked, growing stronger with each passing second. "This vessel is yours," the message continued. "There are 17 more hidden throughout the galaxy. They have slept for 1 billion years waiting for you. The galaxy will fear you now. But do not become what we became. Be better, be worthy." Then the transmission ended, and the great vessel fell silent. Sat in his chair, staring at the planet-sized ship before him. His hands had stopped shaking. In their place was something else, something heavier. Responsibility. "Contact Admiral," he said quietly. Tell her everything has changed." He did not know how right he was. Within days, the Galactic Conquered would learn what humanity had found. Within weeks, 4,000 civilizations would begin to panic. And within months, the galaxy would face a choice: accept humanity's new power or try to destroy them before they could use it. The universe would never be the same. The shuttle crossed the distance between the Discovery and the ancient vessel in complete silence. Captain Han sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the growing shape before them. Beside him, Dr. Lee clutched her tablet like a shield. Behind them sat Chief Engineer and 3 security officers. Nobody spoke. What could they say? They were about to board a ship older than their sun, a ship that claimed humanity was its intended heir. There, pointed, that opening, it is large enough for our shuttle. Guided the small craft toward a massive doorway in the vessel's hull. As they approached, lights activated along the interior walls, creating a path for them. The ship was welcoming them inside. They landed in a hangar bay larger than any space station humanity had ever built. The ceiling stretched upward into darkness. The floor was smooth metal, covered in the same glowing blue symbols that marked the exterior. As the shuttle's engines powered down, the silence became absolute. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported, checking her scanner. "Temperature is comfortable. It is like this ship was designed for humans." "Perhaps it was," said quietly. They exited the shuttle and walked across the hangar. Their footsteps echoed in the vast space. Ahead, a doorway opened without any visible mechanism, revealing a corridor that stretched into the heart of the vessel. Led the way. The corridor walls displayed images as they passed, stars being born, planets forming, primitive life crawling from ancient oceans. It was a story, he realized. The ship was showing them its history. "These images," said, her voice filled with wonder, They show the evolution of life on multiple worlds. This vessel, it did not just watch creation, it participated in it. They walked for what felt like hours. Those chronometers showed only 20 minutes had passed. The corridors branched and twisted, but the path was always clear, always lit for them. The ship was guiding them somewhere. Finally, they reached a chamber at the very center of the vessel. It was spherical, perhaps a kilometer across, and filled with floating platforms connected by bridges of light. At the center of the sphere floated a structure that looked like a throne made of crystal and starlight. As they entered, the throne activated. Light poured from it, forming a shape, a figure, a being made of pure energy. "Welcome, children of Earth," the being said. Its voice was warm, ancient, and impossibly sad. "I am the first architect. I am the last memory of my people, and I have waited so long to meet you." Stepped forward. Who were the architects? What happened to you? The being's form flickered. Images appeared around them, vast civilizations, countless worlds, ships beyond counting. "We were the first intelligent species in this galaxy. We arose 4 billion years ago when the universe was young. We spread across the stars. We built wonders, and then we became afraid." "Afraid of what?" asked. "Of being alone, of being forgotten, of dying without purpose." The architect's voice grew heavier. "We decided to create successors. We seeded thousands of worlds with the building blocks of life. We guided evolution on promising planets. We waited for new species to arise, species that could inherit what we had built." Was scanning the chamber with her engineering tools. "This ship," she said, "its power source. I cannot even understand what I am seeing. It is beyond anything in our science." "This vessel can harvest energy from stars," the architect explained. "It can terraform worlds in decades. It can defend itself against any weapon known to exist. There are 17 more like it, hidden in locations across the galaxy. They were built to be gifts, tools to help young species grow and explore safely." "But something went wrong," guessed. The architect's light dimmed. "Yes, something went wrong. A sickness came to us, not a disease of the body but of the mind. It crept into our thoughts, twisted our purpose, turned our love for creation into a hunger for control. We began to destroy the very species we had made. We burned worlds. We killed billions." The images around them changed, showing destruction, fire, death on a scale that made stomach turn. Planets cracked apart. Fleets burned. Species died screaming. "What was this sickness?" asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We called it the Hollow. It was not truly alive, not in the way you understand life. It was a corruption, a pattern of thought that spread from mind to mind. It fed on fear and grew stronger with each victim. By the end, most of my people were lost to it." "But you survived," said. "A few of us resisted. We realized the Hollow could be stopped, but only by ending ourselves. So we created a final plan. We hid the world ships. We encoded resistance to the Hollow into the species that showed the most promise. And then we died, destroying the Hollow with our passing." The architect paused. "Or so we believed." Felt cold. "It is still alive." "I do not know. I am only a memory, a recording left to guide you, but I fear we were not thorough enough. The Hollow was patient. It could hide and wait and let itself be forgotten." Stepped closer to the glowing figure. "Why us? Why humanity? We are young, primitive compared to other species." "Because you carry our gift. Every human in their very cells contains a code we placed there 3 billion years ago. This code protects you from the Hollow. And this code allows you to interface with our technology, to command it as we once did. No other species has this. Only you." On Earth, Director stood before the United Earth Council, watching the live transmission from the Discovery. The council chamber was silent. 50 representatives from 50 nations stared at the screen, seeing the same thing she saw, proof that humanity was not alone in the universe's history, that their existence was not random but planned. "This changes everything," one representative whispered. Nodded, yes, it does. Her tablet buzzed with an urgent message. She looked down and felt her blood freeze. The Galactic Concord had detected the Discovery's entry into the void. A Concord delegation was on its way. They were not happy. "We have about 6 hours before we have to explain this to the galaxy," announced. "I suggest we use that time wisely." Back on the ancient vessel made his decision. "We need to bring experts here. Scientists, engineers, historians. We need to understand this technology before we can use it." "There is no time," the architect said. "The Concord will demand you abandon this vessel. Some species within it still remember what we became. They will be afraid. Fear makes beings do terrible things." "Then what do we do?" The architect's light grew brighter. "Wake the other ships. Find them before the Concord destroys them. Build a defense that cannot be broken. And above all, do not let fear rule you. That was our mistake. Do not repeat it." The transmission ended. The architect faded. The chamber fell dark except for the soft glow of the throne at its center. Looked at her captain. "Sir, I think I can figure out how to wake this ship fully. But once we do, there is no hiding what we have found." Looked at, she nodded. "Do it," he ordered. "Wake it up. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it together." His fingers flew across her tablet. Somewhere deep in the vessel, something ancient stirred. Power flowed through systems that had slept for 1 billion years. Lights blazed to life across the hull, visible from 1,000 light-years away. The galaxy was about to notice. And nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Assembly had not gathered in emergency session for 800 years. The last time had been to address a supernova that threatened 3 inhabited systems. Now, 4,000 species crowded into the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, and the reason was far more terrifying than any exploding star. Humanity had found the architect vessels. Ambassador stood at the speaking platform, facing a sea of alien faces. Some were humanoid, others were crystalline, gaseous, or shapes that human minds could barely comprehend. All of them were afraid. She could see it in their body language, hear it in the whispers that filled the chamber. "Distinguished representatives," began, her voice calm and measured. "The human species comes before you today not as conquerors but as seekers of peace." Laughter erupted from several delegations. A representative, an ancient being with silver skin and 4 arms, rose to his feet. His name was, and he had served on the Concord Council for 3,000 years. "Peace?" His voice dripped with contempt. "You have awakened weapons of genocide. The architect vessels burned entire civilizations. They shattered worlds, and you speak of peace." Did not flinch. "We did not create these vessels. We did not ask to find them, but they exist and they respond only to humans. That is a fact we must all accept." "Accept?" Another representative stood, this one from the species, beings of living crystal that had achieved before Earth's sun existed. "We do not accept. We remember what the architects did. The Burning Age, they called it. 47 species, erased from existence. We will not allow that horror to return." Murmurs of agreement swept through the chamber. Felt the mood shifting against her. She had expected this. Director had warned her that the assembly would be hostile, but knowing something and experiencing it were very different. "The architects are dead," said firmly. "They destroyed themselves to end the threat they posed. What remains are tools, nothing more. Tools can be used for good or evil. It depends on who holds them." Stepped forward, his silver eyes gleaming. "And you expect us to trust that humans, a species barely 3 centuries old in space, will use these tools wisely? Your kind still fights among yourselves. Your history is written in blood. Why should we believe you are any different from the architects?" It was a fair question. Had asked it herself many times since learning the truth about humanity's inheritance. "Because we know the cost of destruction," she answered. "We have seen what happens when power is used without wisdom. Our own history taught us that lesson again and again. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in it peacefully alongside all of you. Pretty words, said, but words are easy. Actions are what matter, and your actions have awakened ancient nightmares. The voting began 2 hours later. 800 species voted in favor of a resolution declaring humanity a threat to galactic security. The resolution authorized military action to prevent humans from activating any additional architect vessels. Watched the results with a heavy heart. She had failed, diplomacy had failed. As she left the chamber, her communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Park, calling from the newly awakened worldship that humanity had named Hope. Ambassador, I watched the vote, said. Her voice was tired but steady. I want you to know that we prepared for this possibility. What do you mean? Captain Han found 3 more vessels. He awakened them yesterday. We now have 4 worldships under human control. Stopped walking. 4. Admiral the Conquered just authorized military action against us. I know, that is why we needed to act quickly. Ambassador, these ships, they are beyond anything the Conquered has. Each one carries weapons that can trigger stars into supernova. Their shields can withstand the output of a black hole. Their construction bays can manufacture entire fleets in hours. Paused. The Conquered cannot destroy us, not anymore. That does not mean they will not try. No, it does not. Which is why I need you to deliver a message. Tell them that humanity will not fire first. Tell them that we seek peace, not war. But also tell them that if they attack our people, our worlds, or our ships, we will defend ourselves, and they will not like the result. The coalition fleet arrived at humanity's border 3 weeks later. 800 species had contributed ships, 30,000 vessels of war, bristling with weapons, ready to end the human threat before it could grow. Admiral Park watched them come. She stood on the Bridge of Hope, surrounded by holographic displays showing every ship in the enemy armada. Beside her, Captain Han studied the tactical data. They are forming attack formations, reported. They mean to strike fast before we can respond. They do not understand what they are facing, said quietly. Show them. Nodded. He spoke a command, and the 4 worldships moved. They had been positioned in a diamond formation, each one the size of a small moon, each one radiating power that made nearby stars flicker. Now they shifted, spreading out to form a line directly in the path of the coalition fleet. On every ship in the enemy armada, sensors screamed warnings, power readings that should not be possible, shield strengths that physics, weapons systems that could crack planets like eggs. The coalition fleet stopped, opened a communication channel, broadcasting to every ship simultaneously. Her face appeared on 30,000, her voice reaching millions of beings who had come to destroy her species. This is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Force, she said calmly. I understand why you are here. I understand your fear. The architects committed terrible crimes, and you worry that we will do the same. She paused, letting her words sink in. We are not the architects. We did not build these ships, but we have inherited them, and with that inheritance comes responsibility. We will not use these vessels to conquer. We will not use them to destroy, but we will use them to defend our people, our worlds, and our right to exist. On the bridge of the flagship watched the human admiral speak. His hands trembled. He had lived for 4,000 years, commanded fleets in a dozen wars, faced threats that would terrify lesser beings. But he had never felt fear like this. The worldships were real, they were awake, and they were in human hands. All vessels, continued, you have a choice. You can attack and we will defend ourselves. Or you can turn around, go home, and we can find a way to live together in peace. The choice is yours, but make it wisely. The transmission ended. Silence fell across the coalition fleet. No one moved, no one fired. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally gave an order. His flagship turned. One by one, the other vessels followed. The great armada that had come to destroy humanity retreated into the darkness of space, defeated without a single shot being fired. On the bridge of hope, let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "They are leaving," he said. "For now," replied. "But this is not over. They will regroup, plan, look for weaknesses. We have bought ourselves time, nothing more." "What do we do with that time?" "Turn to look at the stars. Somewhere out there, 13 more world ships waited to be found. And somewhere, perhaps, something far worse than the coalition fleet was watching." "We prepare," she said, "for whatever comes next." The galaxy had stood petrified in shock. Now it was learning to fear, and humanity was only beginning to understand the true weight of its inheritance. 6 months had passed since the coalition fleet retreated. 6 months of cold silence, of suspicious glances across diplomatic tables, of an entire galaxy watching humanity's every move. The world ships orbited human space like giant guardians, and no one dared approach. Dr. Lee spent those months studying the architect technology. She lived aboard Hope, rarely sleeping, surrounded by holographic displays and ancient databases. The world ship's artificial intelligence, a fragment of the first architect's memory, guided her through systems that human science could not begin to explain. Today, she finally understood something important. "Captain, Admiral, you need to see this." They gathered in the central chamber of Hope, the same place where they had first met the architect's projection. Stood at the center, her hands trembling as she manipulated the holographic controls. "I have been translating the architect historical records," she said. "Billions of years of data. Most of it is what we already knew. They created life, they spread across the galaxy, they built the world ships. But I found something else. Something they tried very hard to hide." Images appeared around them. The architects in their prime, beings of light and wisdom, nurturing young species across countless worlds. Then the images changed. The light beings began to flicker, to darken, to twist into something wrong. The Hollow said quietly, "Yes, but I finally understand what the Hollow actually is." His voice was tight with fear. "It is not a disease. It is not a virus. It is a pattern. A thought pattern that spreads from mind to mind, changing whoever it touches. And here is the terrible part. The architects did not destroy it when they died." Stepped closer to the images. "What do you mean?" "The Hollow survived. The architect's sacrifice weakened it, scattered it, but did not kill it. And over the past billion years, it has been rebuilding itself, hiding inside the galactic Concord, manipulating events from the shadows." Silence filled the chamber. "You are saying," said slowly, "that the Concord itself is infected." "Not all of it, but the highest levels, the most powerful councils. Yes, the Hollow has been guiding galactic civilization for millions of years, keeping species afraid, preventing progress, making sure no one ever found the world ships." "Until we did," said. "Until we did. And now the Hollow knows we are here. It knows we have the one thing that can threaten it, technology it cannot corrupt and minds it cannot touch." Admiral closed her eyes. The weight of this revelation pressed down on her like a physical force. They had thought the galaxy feared them because of ancient history, because of what the architects had done. But the truth was far worse. The galaxy was not afraid of what humanity might become. The galaxy was controlled by the very evil humanity was meant to fight. "We need proof," she said finally. "If we accuse the Conquered of being corrupted without evidence, no one will believe us." "I know. That is why I asked Captain to find more world ships. Each one contains historical records. If we can gather enough data from enough ships, we can prove what the Hollow has done." Nodded. "We have located 9 more vessels in the past month. Lieutenant has been leading the recovery teams." At the mention of her name appeared on the communication screen. She was young, barely 25, but she had proven herself to be the finest pilot in the fleet. More importantly, She had a gift that no one else possessed. She could bond directly with the world ships, communicate with them in ways that even the architects had not anticipated. Admiral Captain said, "We have a situation. I found another vessel, designation 17, but when I tried to wake it, something answered." Felt ice in her veins. What answered? I do not know. It was not the architect intelligence. It was something else, something that knew my name, something that said it had been waiting. The communication channel erupted with static. When it cleared, face was pale. "It called itself the Hollow," she whispered. "It said that humanity was a mistake, that we were supposed to die with the architects, and now that we have woken the ships, it is coming for us." The attack came 3 days later. It did not come from the coalition fleet. It did not come from any known species. It came from within. On 12 different conquered worlds, leaders who had served for centuries suddenly changed. Their eyes went dark. Their voices became wrong. They began issuing orders. Destroy the humans, destroy the ships, destroy everything the architects left behind. Fleets loyal to these corrupted leaders mobilized. But this time, they did not move toward human space. They moved toward each other. Species that had been allies for suddenly turned their weapons on their neighbors. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. It is using the chaos as cover, realized. While everyone fights everyone else, the Hollow can move freely. It is trying to reach the remaining world ships before we can. Admiral made her decision. All vessels, new mission. We are not defending anymore. We are going hunting. The 10 world ships under human control spread out across the galaxy. Each one carried crews of humans who had learned to interface with the ancient technology, who could command systems that physics, who could fight with the power of gods. Lieutenant led the way. Her bond with the ships had grown stronger with each passing day. She could feel them now, all 17 vessels scattered across the stars. She could feel which ones were awake, which ones were sleeping, and which ones were being attacked. "Vessel 14 is under assault," she reported. "Hollow corrupted forces. They cannot wake it, but they are trying to destroy it." "Get there," ordered. "Protect it at all costs." This world ship, which she had named Dawn, crossed 300 light-years in seconds. The architect technology bent space itself, making distances meaningless. She emerged above a battlefield where 100 corrupted warships were firing on a dormant world ship, their weapons splashing uselessly against its ancient shields. But the corrupted ships were not trying to destroy the vessel. They were trying to force entry. Thousands of boarding pods swarmed its surface, carrying soldiers whose minds belonged to the Hollow. They want to corrupt it from inside, realized. They want to turn the world ships against us. She opened a channel to the corrupted fleet. "This is Lieutenant of the Earth Defense Force. Stand down immediately." The response was laughter, 1,000 voices speaking as one, cold and empty. "Little human, you do not understand. You were never meant to find these ships. You were meant to be forgotten like all the others, but you persisted. You survived. And now you have become a threat that must be eliminated." "We do not want to fight," you said. "The beings you have taken, the minds you have stolen, they can be freed. Let them go." They do not want to be free. They want what we want: peace, order, an end to chaos. The architects tried to create life without control. Look what happened: suffering, war, death. We offer something better. We offer unity, one mind, one purpose, one future. Felt the Hollow reaching for her. It was trying to enter her thoughts, to find a crack in her defenses. But something pushed back. The world ships themselves rose to protect her, their ancient intelligences forming a barrier that the Hollow could not penetrate. "You cannot have us," said. "You cannot have the ships, and you cannot have the galaxy. This ends now." Dawn opened fire. The battle lasted 7 hours. When it was over, the corrupted fleet was destroyed, and Vessel 14 was safe. But knew this was only the beginning. The Hollow was everywhere. It had infected thousands of beings, infiltrated hundreds of governments, corrupted entire civilizations. Defeating it would require more than firepower. It would require something humanity had always struggled with: unity. As she guided Dawn back toward human space, received a message from Admiral. "We have made contact with species who were not corrupted. They saw what you did today. They want to help." For the first time in months, smiled. "Tell them we accept," she said. "Tell them the real war has just begun." The galaxy was waking up, and humanity would lead the fight. 1 year after the discovery of the first world ship, the galaxy stood at the edge of transformation. The war against the Hollow had united former enemies. The once humanity's most vocal opponents now fought alongside them. The ancient beings of living crystal shared their wisdom freely. Species that had never spoken to each other before coordinated attacks, protected each other's worlds, and died together defending the freedom they had almost lost. Admiral Park stood on the Bridge of Hope, watching the final assault preparations. All 17 world ships were awake now, fully crewed by humans who had learned to merge their minds with the ancient technology. Around them, a fleet of 10,000 allied vessels waited for the signal. Today, they would strike at the Hollow's heart. "All commanders, this is Admiral," she broadcast across the combined fleet. "In a few hours, we will engage an enemy that has controlled this galaxy for 1 billion years. Many of us will not survive, but what we do today will echo through history. Our children will tell stories of this moment. Future civilizations will remember that when darkness threatened to consume everything, we stood together and said no more." She paused, looking at the stars that would witness their battle. The Hollow believes that unity can only come through control. It believes that free minds are chaos, that independence is weakness. We are about to prove it wrong. Every species in this fleet, every world that stands with us, every being who chose to fight rather than submit. We are united by choice, not force, and that makes us stronger than anything the Hollow can imagine. Lieutenant piloted Dawn at the head of the formation. Through her bond with the ship, she could feel the emotions of her fellow commanders: determination, fear, hope. She could feel the world ships themselves, ancient intelligences awakening to their true purpose for the first time in 1 billion years. "Ready, Lieutenant?" Captain Han asked over the command channel. "I have been ready since the day I first touched these ships," replied. "They want this. The architects designed them to protect life, to nurture creation. Being used as weapons of fear was never their purpose. Today, we set them free." The fleet moved. Space folded around them as the world ships created pathways through the void. Stars blurred past. Galaxies wheeled overhead. And then they emerged at their destination, the core of the Hollow itself. It was a singularity, a wound in reality where light and matter fell forever into darkness. For 1 billion years, the Hollow had used this place as its sanctuary, a fortress of pure entropy that no weapon could touch. But the world ships were not weapons, they were tools of creation. "Dr. Lee, is your theory correct?" asked. His voice came through the communication system, steady despite the fear she must have felt. "The architects built these ships to reshape reality itself. They can terraform planets, ignite stars, create conditions for life where none should exist. If my calculations are right, they can also heal. Even this." "Do it." The 17 world ships spread out around the singularity, forming a pattern that had been encoded in their systems since before humanity existed. Power flowed between them, building, growing, becoming something that had no name in any language. The Hollow felt it coming. For the first time in 1 billion years, it knew fear. It struck back with everything it had. Corrupted fleets poured out of hidden positions. Beings that had been enslaved screamed and fought with the desperation of those who had no will left. Reality itself seemed to twist as the Hollow tried to break the pattern forming around it. But the Allied fleet held the line. Cruisers threw themselves into the path of attacks meant for the world ships. Crystals shattered, sacrificing themselves to absorb weapons fire. 1,000 species died together, buying the time humanity needed. Felt tears on her cheeks. "They are dying for us," she whispered. "They are dying for everyone," Dawn's intelligence replied through their bond. "As the architects once did, as you may have to do." "I know." The pattern completed. Light erupted from 17 points simultaneously, meeting at the center of the singularity. It was not an attack. It was not destruction. It was something far more powerful. It was healing. The wound in reality began to close. The darkness that had festered there for 1 billion years started to recede. And as it did, something emerged from within, a mind, vast and ancient and terribly wounded. The hollow in its true form. It had been a species once, had theorized. A species so afraid of death, of change, of loss, that it had tried to become immortal by merging into one being. But immortality had come at a cost. Without death, there was no growth. Without change, there was no hope. The hollow had become a prison for the billions of minds it had absorbed, each one trapped in endless, unchanging darkness. "We can feel them," said, her voice breaking. "All of them. Millions of minds screaming they want to be free." "Can you free them?" asked. The ships were designed for this. The architects included a protocol, something for if they ever needed to heal themselves. It can work on the hollow too, but hesitated. It requires a guide, someone to show the trapped minds the way out, someone to stay with them until the end. Understood immediately. "No, there has to be another way." "There is not. I am the only one bonded deeply enough to do this. The ships chose me for this moment, Captain. I understand that now. This is why I am here." "I forbid it." "You cannot," smiled sadly through the, "but you can do something else. You can tell the galaxy what happened here today. You can make sure no one forgets. Not the species who died defending us. Not the humans who gave everything. And not me." She closed the channel before he could respond. Dawn moved forward, into the heart of the dissolving singularity, carrying toward the countless minds trapped within. The other world ships poured their power into her, giving her strength for the journey ahead. Inside the hollow found them, millions of beings, species she recognized and species long extinct, all of them lost in endless darkness. She reached out to them, offering warmth, light, hope. "Follow me," she said. "I will show you the way home." One by one they did. The process took hours. It felt like years. But slowly, steadily, the trapped minds found their way out. Some returned to bodies that still lived. Others passed on to whatever waited beyond life. All of them were free. When it was over, the hollow was gone. Not destroyed, but healed. The wound in reality had closed. And Lieutenant's body floated in the void, her mind scattered across the stars, her consciousness merged with the world ships that had loved her. The galaxy would never forget her name. 1 month later, Director addressed the first true Galactic Council. Representatives from 2,000 species filled a chamber on Nexus Prime, but there was no fear in the air. Only hope and grief and the beginnings of something new. "We did not ask for the inheritance the architects left us," said. "We did not seek power or control. All we wanted was to survive, to explore, to grow alongside the rest of you. And when darkness threatened, we fought not to conquer but to protect." She gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing the 17 world ships in their new formations. "These vessels will never be weapons again. They will be what they were always meant to be, tools of creation. They will terraform dead worlds, protect young species, and help all of us reach toward a future our ancestors could only dream of." The representative rose to speak. He was old even by his species' standards, and the war had cost him many things he loved, but his voice was strong. "Humanity has proven itself worthy of the architect's legacy, not through power but through sacrifice, not through force but through compassion. The conquered was broken, corrupted by an evil we could not see. Let us build something new in its place. A true alliance where all species are equal, where no mind is controlled, where the future belongs to everyone. The vote was unanimous. The old conquered dissolved. The new alliance rose in its place. And humanity, the young species that had discovered planet-sized starships and terrified the galaxy, took their place among the stars, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as guardians, protectors, and friends. In the years that followed, the world ships traveled across the galaxy, healing worlds damaged by the Hollow's influence, nurturing species that had been oppressed for, building wonders that rivaled anything the architects had created. Admiral Park retired eventually, but she never stopped watching the stars. Captain Han took command of the exploration fleet, leading expeditions to the edges of known space. Dr. Lee became the Alliance's foremost expert on ancient technology, unlocking secrets that advanced science by centuries. And sometimes, when the world ships passed through certain regions of space, their crews reported hearing a voice. A woman's voice, young and brave, singing quietly among the stars. Lieutenant was gone, but she had never truly left. She had become part of the ships that saved the galaxy, and through them, she would protect humanity and all species forever. The galaxy that had once stood petrified in shock now looked to the future with hope. And humanity led the way home.